Are you filled with fear, doubt, worry about the future of our country? Do you feel the urgency to act before it's too late? If yes, then this podcast is for you. It's time for us to confront the critical issues threatening our nation's fabric, our democracy itself, regardless of our political stance. If you are ready to face reality, handle the tough questions, and find real solutions, then here's your host, Debilyn Molyneux.
Welcome to the Terrified Nation podcast. I'm your host, Debilyn Molyneux. Can we save it? That's what we're exploring in this podcast series. And for me, the answer is a resounding yes. Yes, we can, and we must. This show is where we explore alternatives to being afraid. And we interview guests who have gone from being afraid or angry or hopeless to become advocates for our nation and to live into the promise of the founders, each person dedicating themselves to a better future. And for those of you who've listened for a while, you know that I like to start each show with a question that we'll explore together. Here's today's. How do you approach taking action on a problem that you cannot imagine being solved in your lifetime? To explore this question today, I'm honored to introduce you to Julie Reese. Now, Julie is a longtime resident of Alabama. She is a member of the League of Women Voters, and she is also married. She is a very concerned citizen about her future and our future. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Debilyn.
So, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to take a little imaginary trip into the future, into a future that you might want for yourself. And it's not about what's likely or probable that you're imagining. It's actually what you prefer for yourself. So we're going to do a little time travel somewhere between 2 and 20 years into your future. How far do you want to go today?
Let's say 15.
All right, so 15. So we're going to set the dial here to 2039. And let's go ahead and take just a few deep breaths as we step into the time machine and we dial it into 2039. And we're on our way now as we're moving into the future. When we get there, Julie, what I really want to ask you to do is to stay yourself here in 2024, but observe and imagine your older self, your 15-year older self, and answer the questions about what you're seeing in your future. Got it?
Yes.
All right. So we're pulling into the 2039 station right now, and ding! And let's go ahead and climb out of the time capsule. And the first question that I have for you, Julie, is just, where are we in 2039? What do you see?
Well, I see myself probably still being here in Alabama. I don't really see my life being that much different. I'll be 70 by then. And I see Alabama a lot different than I see it today. And I'm very hopeful for that. I see stronger community right in my metro area. And I see more opportunities for my state, for the people in my state. I see opportunities for education, financial, growth for people, and also just a better place than we are today.
All right. So you're living in the same place and you're seeing improvements, if you will, for both the opportunities and socioeconomics, if you will, of Alabama than what we have in 2024. So by 2039, there's a lot of things that are better and improved from a community standpoint. Did I get that right?
I see justice reform. I see that a lot. I think we're moving into that era. I think we're starting to see that. And I also see the ERA being passed. I would like the ERA being passed. I would like to see Roe back where it is.
Well, and again, this is your preferred future.
Yes, I would like to see rights for women. I would like to see voting rights for all in my state. And the most important thing, I would like to hear from everyone so that we're not just having a 66% turnout at the polls, but we have closer to 100 where everyone feels they have a voice and a vote.
So I'm hearing you describing a lot of things in your community, but as you're looking at your older self in 2039, your 70-year-old self, what will you be most proud of?
I will be most proud of what I've done in my community, the changes that I've made, and my connections that I've made in my community, being mentored by the people that have made me feel better along my journey, and also a sense of belonging, I guess, to a community. So I see that, and I hope that will be strengthened.
Yeah. And do you have that sense of belonging in 2024? And so you're going to expand that, or like describe like what's different between now and 2039?
I'm hoping that by the time we get to that place, there will be a greater opportunity for conversations. I would like to get back to the neighborly friendliness that people once felt, instead of hostility and distrust that a lot of people feel.
So in your preferred future, you're going to have this sense of neighborliness.
Very much so. And we had a better sense of that when I first moved to this community in 2015. But when we got here, things were a lot different. And then I watched things erode in a strange way. Our community was very close knit. When we moved here, we had a monthly bunco, a little game night that we played. Everybody had a great time. Politics were not discussed. We call these the fun years, because when we first moved here, it was great. People were traveling together, taking trips together, things like that didn't come up. And then things changed. We are no longer having bunco anymore. And I think that's because there was a lot of hostility, said and felt by people. At one of our Christmas functions, a neighbor took a swing at another neighbor. They had known each other for years. And that person was proposing that they get together with a lawmaker that they knew. And they said, if you just speak to him and have lunch, I'm sure you could come together on some issues. The person they had known for a long time took a swing at them. And I saw all this.
Wow.
I was stunned. I was stunned to see people who had been friends and enjoyed each other's company suddenly just say, I'm done with these people. They're almost my enemy. And it was very disturbing. It's not that anyone's hostile now, but there's an edge in our neighborhood that was not present in 2015. You can feel it.
Sounds to me like fear kind of, from that single incident at a Christmas party. It sounds like that possibility of violence just has infiltrated into every corner of your neighborhood, so that you don't have what you want for your future anymore.
Absolutely. And I would like to see that come back. I would like to see people, because a lot of these people are good people and they will help other people. They just get in their mind the sense of other. A person is an other, and they're not, they're your neighbors, and we have to get away from some of that and get back to neighbors, friends helping friends, that sense of community. And in my future, what I'm most proud of is that we've achieved our objectives that we set out to do in league, which also transfers into my personal life, which is hope for equality, hope for people for all. But in my world, we have all that. We have rights for all. We have, it's a very wonderful world. Children have access to clean drinking water. The power company here is not putting coal ash in our river. They're not doing any of that. We're actually working with them in my future, and they are caring about what they do in our community instead of just doing lip service, which is what they do. So I'm seeing a brighter day with, clean.
But how does that look in your day-to-day life? Like, how do you spend your day when you're 70 and as you're observing your older self in 2039?
Well, let's see. It would probably be very much the same day that I have now, because I am actually retired. So I would probably do a lot of the same things I do today. I enjoy Pilates. So I get up and go to Pilates class a couple of times a week. I have a pool, so I enjoy swimming in my pool. I spend a lot of time with my dogs. I have 3 dogs. I don't have any children. I love family, so I love to talk to everybody and see how they're doing. I love to, so I'd be chatting with them, and by then my nephew's children will be older and I'll be able to talk to them. They may even have children by then. So chatting with family. I like to needlepoint. Hopefully my eyes will still be good. I love to read. I like to play backgammon. So I'd probably be doing all these things. So I'd love to be that person that's like Julie Reese is 99 at the baseball game today, and she's celebrating her birthday today. I'd love to be that person. I'm a baseball
Yeah.
fanatic. But I really love to travel. So hopefully I'll be able to do some traveling and get out, because I feel like travel has really made me the person I am. Being
Mm,
able to get out from here and see other places has enriched my life so much. We have a lovely beach here in Alabama, so I can, I've got a friend that has a house, so I can visit there. So I see myself doing much of the same things that I'm doing now, traveling to see family, traveling to some exotic places, hopefully physically able to do these things, keeping up with my Pilates and trying to keep my health on track.
yeah.
And that's about it.
Just hearing about an average day, I'm tired.
And I totally forgot about my work with the league. I definitely want to be, in with the league and doing things with the league. But I'm really kind of a homebody, to be honest with you. I love to travel, but I love to come home. And we have 15 acres, so I love to be in my woods. I love to be listening to the animals, the owls and the deer. And I'm a huge nature person, but I'm one of those people that likes to see it from far away. Look at those animals down there.
Through
I
the
don't really
window.
like, yeah, I'm like, look at those beautiful trees way down there. So I'm more of an indoorsy with a penchant for outdoors. But I love glamping. I love to go glamping, which is like camping, but it's, glamping. Love to go glamping. I love nature. I love beautiful vistas. I love taking photographs.
You remind me of a friend who also loves glamping. And we got to a campsite one time, and it was just her and I, but we were prepping for a bunch of other friends to come. And she was like telling me like what all the rules were. And I finally looked at her and I said, Brenda, you really just have one rule. And she goes, what? And I was like, the rule is no dirt. Like all these other rules that you have boiled down to no dirt. And so every time somebody says glamping, I think about Brenda and the no dirt rule. All right, back to the interview. So this next question that we have here is really just thinking about and observing your older self. How do you feel most of the time? You're living this glorious life. You've got all these activities. You're still a little bit of a homebody. How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel pleased with the progress I've made as an older person. I feel contented to see my family growing up, the young ones getting older, being around them. I feel a sense of completeness, I would hope, at that age. To see the work I've done as a younger person when we had the hustling years, working hard in the restaurant business, and being able to sort of sit back and enjoy some fruits of the labor and just some time of contemplation. So not necessarily laurel resting, but celebrating the milestones and the achievements of that age. I look at people now that are that age. I try to imagine myself that age. And it's, of course, it's hard because until you get there, you can't really get there. But I see them and I ask them for advice. I just recently asked someone who was 70, I said, so how do you, keep a positive spin on all of it? And he said, you just got to keep going, Julie. He said, it's an honest question. And here's an honest answer. One foot in front of the other, enjoy the time you have and celebrate the victories, maybe even more so than you thought you would. Because when we get older, we lose people. And, because we lost a few folks that week. And it was, they always have a smile and they're a jaunty spring in their step.
This next question, you've touched on it a little bit, but I want to dig a little deeper on this. And like, as you're looking at your 70-year-old self, what can you identify as your 3 to 5 values or qualities of your older self?
The values or qualities of my older self. My older self definitely values community and it values family, but it also self-peace, self-acceptance, and just being at peace with oneself, the decisions you've made, your feelings for the future, where you are right now. We talk about a zen, being in a zen state a lot in this house, sometimes jokingly, sometimes seriously. But to really be in the moment and to be happy where you are, you've thought about your problems or your concerns, but you've put those to rest and you're in a good place. And I think that's where I see. You spoke about previously to me: connection, community, and contribution, which I thought those were such great, such great things to, the three C's. And I think about all those things, and those are the things that really enrich your life. I mean, those are the things that make us happy. And I think about people search for happiness when happiness, for me, a lot of times is a choice. If you feel bad, you need to get out and talk to people, connect. I guess those three things. I mean, the way when you mentioned those things to me before, I thought how succinct. It was those things that really hit the nail on the head for so many things.
Well, and
And really,
I have to insert here for the listeners of Terrified Nation, the three C's that Julie mentioned are the results of the research project, the pilot project that I did for AmericanFuture.us. And in every interview that I conducted, those three things, deep connections, a community of belonging, and a way to contribute back, were the things that that every participant in the research had included in their interview, which is the interview we're in the middle of, Julie. So I'm not surprised.
well, and I just want to say, in 2020, when I joined League, I was in kind of a bad place spiritually. I'd had a really hard 5 years, starting in 2017, and some personal things happened to me. We lost a business, we moved, we renovated a house, we had deaths in our family. And I went through menopause. I mean, we had a lot of things. I had a lot of things on my plate, and it was through those things that I thought to myself, "You've got to do something." And the contribution is probably what saved a great part of my mental health, because the women that I met were powerhouses, and they were the mentoring that I needed, and they were I don't know, my mentor. I remember one day coming in and I said, "Well, I'm just a little tired today. Just a little tired. I've been going through it. And then, boy, is it hard." And she looked at me, and I'll never forget this. And she said, "You're a white woman." She said, "You don't get to get tired." And I remember thinking, and it took me aback because I wanted her to pet my head and feel sorry for me. She don't, "No, you don't get to feel tired," she said. And it's something I think about all the time. I do not. She said, "There's a line for justice. Have you seen it? It is so long, and you're at the end of it." And I thought, you know what? She's so right. And I really, those words galvanized me and made me think, I'm not tired. And when I think about what other people have gone through and what they've overcome, of course I can. Of course I can.
Yeah.
And so I think that saved me really in 2020 when I joined League, and being around these women. They are amazing. And we have a whole state full of them. So I'm lucky to be supported in that way. So,
well, and we just have two questions left in the formal interview here. And so I want you to kind of come back to observing yourself in 2039. And not just yourself, but look at the community around you. And you've talked a little bit about what the community is. But for you to have this preferred future, this sense of contribution, of family, of living your day-to-day life that's fully engaged, what does the community itself need to include or provide so that that future is possible for you?
I would just hope that everyone would get more involved in every community across every state, across this land. I just feel that is something we've become unconnected to each other. And I think that's the problem. I'm not a religious person, but I do see the role that a church filled in a community, as far as if someone was hurt or out of work, the community rallied and helped those people. I think if we got back to that sort of feeling amongst ourselves, instead of people are trying to take from me, instead of I have plenty to give, which of course we all do. I just think that most people are good and they would help their neighbor, but sometimes they get scared. And I think the fear drives so much of the anger and makes people so afraid. I'm trying to remember in Star Wars, but like Yoda says, fear leads to anger and anger leads to hate. And it really is that simple. And so if you will say things that are ugly about people, you'll do things that are ugly to people. And you have to really sort of remember they are your neighbors. These are nice people. You just don't know them yet. They have plenty to bring to the table. I think sometimes living in this state, people get in their little bubble. They've gone to the school with the same people. They've talked to the same people all their lives. They've never met anyone outside their worldview. And it's a shame because, like I said about traveling has given me such a window on the world that, as growing up in the United States, you think we're so important, and you realize the world is doing just fine without our opinion or our influx or our guidance. They are doing just fine without us. And as a Western person growing up, you just think, oh, we're so important. It's like the world does not need America's, influence. So I think, that's the kind of thing that it's given me a greater understanding. So,
Well, here we're going to wrap it up with this last question, because I know you've talked several times about contribution. And this last question really is focusing back on what is it that you're doing today or could do in the near future to influence or co-create that community that you want when you're 70?
Well, through my work with League, I'm able to talk with a lot of young people. So I'm glad about that. And I always love to speak with them. I love to hear about their ideas, their visions, even their visions for the future, where they see themselves, how they feel. And I feel that, with me looking at my community, I hope that more people will, like I said, will undertake even the work that I've done. When you really look at it from a high point, it's maybe we can't fix these things, but when you come down to a lower view, we absolutely can. And I admit I was pretty dismal and depressed when I first started this work. And it can be a little taxing, but I've also had so many great conversations and so many great moments where people really say, I finally understand what you're saying. I'm looking at this a whole different way. And just to be able to have that moment with people, my husband asked me one time, he said, what would it take to change this state? And I said, about a 5-minute conversation with about 500,000 people. And he said, well, we'll just get right on that then. And I said, right, we will. But really, it really is. People get busy. They have their lives. They have their own worries and concerns, work, kids, everything. Sometimes voting takes, they don't have time to talk about that. But just being able to reach people, being able to communicate with people, being able to talk with people has been so good for my life, for my mental well-being. And I do feel like I am able to contribute. We've been able to restore the rights of over 300 formerly incarcerated people. And I've seen people with tears in their eyes saying to me, I'm going to be normal again. And we'd say, you were always normal. You just have your voting rights back. It's interesting that voting rights are something that we take immediately, and punishment, it dehumanizes people on such a level that we can't really even imagine. And so when they get them back, I've seen people dance, I've seen people cry, I've seen people hug. And then a lot of people that we have restored their rights to, they've come back and helped us also in the community. So we've just strengthened those bonds. But to see people say, the community had given up on me, but now I'm going to do this, I'm going to be part of the community again.
Yeah.
It's worth it all. It is worth all. It's worth every day of not getting a registration. It's worth every day of feeling like they're not listening. I can't get through, but every now and then you do. And I think that's where I place my hope. And I do believe that people are good. And I do think that people want the same things, and they just want safety and happiness and being able to live.
That's been my experience in all the thousands of people that I've talked to, some of them through this interview process and some of them before I started with Terrified Nation. Well, Julie, I want to end our interview with an invitation for you and for the listeners of Terrified Nation. And it's this: will you spend 5 minutes every day thinking about your future self, feeling those feelings that we've just identified, and include a sense of awe and wonder? Neuroscience is showing us, is proving that when we spend 5 minutes a day thinking about what we want, we begin to subconsciously create that. And so when you think about all the narratives out there in the world and this dystopian choices, the bad futures that are presented to us, we spend a lot of time trying to avoid those instead of thinking about what we actually want and imagining it as already done. as already happening. So that's my invitation to you, Julie. And for listeners, if you'd like to participate in this interview and research project, you can go to americanfuture.us and take the self-interview. Julie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, I'd like to say thank you as well, and let us all dwell in what is possible and our possibilities. And I see, you've got this tagline, can we save it? Of course, we absolutely can.
Well, your work with the League of Women Voters in Alabama is just giving me a whole lot of inspiration here. So
Thank you.
we'll keep it going. In closing today's show, I'd like to thank you, the listeners, for giving a damn about our nation. We may be a terrified nation today, but we can do better. We can save the USA. Join me next time.
So that's it for today's episode of Terrified Nation. Head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to subscribe to the show. You can get advance notice of new episodes and bonus content by signing up. Head over to terrifiednation.com and join us on the next episode.